Okay, well that went smooth, huh? This time. Can you all understand me also in the back? Okay, perfect. My name is Kresin. I work for a company, an organization called Waag Society in the Netherlands. And I will talk to you about smart cities, and especially open data. Does it work? Yeah, the fact that actually I rewrote my introduction after I heard your introduction because it's totally overlapping. What I think is smart cities are not so much about technology and us technology being used to control people and flows, but it should be used to enable and empower people to make use of their cities in a better way. So if I ask what is smart about a city, a smart city, then the obvious answer is that it's the smart people who inhabit that. And what I personally think is that by now the people who are inhabiting the cities have become more smart than the people that govern them. And that is actually a problem, because that way it's very hard to come up with better services, with the trust that is missing. And I feel that what we should do is try to restore that trust very much, and that should come both bottom up and top down as well at the same time. That's why a little time ago I wrote these design rules for smarter cities. I have the feeling that there are a lot of, well, you know that the way you act in a city is very much governed by and restricted by or enabled by the way that your local government is imposing rules upon how you act in the city. It's doing that by way of laws, it's doing that by way of products, by services, by the way you interact. And they have been known to do that in quite dumb ways until now. And I feel we should combat that, and based upon the principles that we got from design research, our own design research, I think that there actually are ways that governments could do that better. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Our organization is called Waag Society, and we develop technology for social innovation. It's a way of looking at technology as a source, as an empowering source, not so much one that is coming from, well, we all know it's developing very fast, and many of us have a hard time to catch up. And I think there should be organizations helping you to catch up, and helping those who know how to do it help others again. And that's exactly what we do. So we come up with we try to enable meaningful encounters between people from different walks of life to help them develop technology in a way that will empower them living their lives. Coming up with very different kind of solutions, from things we make for elderly care homes to educational departments to cultural departments. We have been doing that all the time. And from that work we came up with 4 principles, I'd say, that I would encourage you to look at. First of all, the best technology producer is the actual user. We know this from the open source field, where a lot of the best open source work is made by people themselves, who are knowing, well, they make tools for themselves, and that's why they're so good. By now, there's almost no limit to what you could make yourself, and you can take this very literally. We know people, and probably you know people, who are doing incredible things themselves. We know people who make their own nuclear fusion machines in their gardens. Actually, they're doing that. I don't know if that's safe, but it's possible. We have people making their own satellites. We have people making their own prostheses. And I encourage you to reflect on this very seminal thing about this time, that there's no limit to what you yourself can actually do, having the right connections. And you have the right connections if you want. Then, of course, sharing is the key to innovation. I hope, I won't say the thing about the UKIP. Sharing is the key to innovation, so I'm very glad that you're part of Europe, and we should enable us to work on. And then making and getting your hands in the dirt, getting your hands in technology, and actually understanding what it means is the only way that you can understand and interact in a world that is highly technological in nature. So please don't be afraid about that. And our motto, you can say, is you cannot open the technology around you, if you cannot open the algorithms, if you cannot open the data, then you don't really own it. Based on this philosophy, this is part of Amsterdam, and we have established a network of actors who are behaving in the same fashion. And this network consists of innovation labs, of knowledge institutes, of accelerators, and of a very large number of people who are actually trying to make the world a better place. And with them, 4 years ago, we started Apps for Amsterdam, the first Apps for Amsterdam. Then we had Apps for the Netherlands, and after Apps for the Netherlands, there came Apps for Europe. We are currently leading an organization called Apps for Europe as well. From that, you see that the field of app development and open data is a little bit maturing. We see that open data is used for various reasons. First of all, there's not economical value, which is on top, it's transparency. It's because organizations and both governments and their citizens feel that open data can help to make the local governments and the national governments more transparent, and that's what's needed. The second is efficiency. That you can use open data across different parts of organizations, different parts of government, to make your processes more efficient. And the third and last one is innovation and economical value. Actually, it's very hard to get economical value from open data at the current state, and there's lots of reasons for that. But we still feel that open data can be very helpful for different actors, all kinds of actors in the field: citizens, companies, civil servants, developers, politicians and journalists. They all can have a benefit from using open data well. And to show you that, I will use an example. Who of you has children? Just a few. More? Very few. Interesting. Well, then these questions like this must be familiar, and if you don't have children, you might get them, and then you'll have those questions too. If you are looking for a school for your child, you might have questions like, are there safe bicycle lanes towards them? How about the air quality when you go there? How about the sports facilities in the neighborhoods? Are there many? Are there more? Do you have to travel a lot? How about the scores? How about the neighborhood? How about the many aspects surrounding the schools that might be important choosing a school for your child? And if you'd have these questions, you can typically find data to answer those. And in this particular case, you managed to get an interview with the alderman. I don't know how difficult that is in London, but Amsterdam might work. You can have contact details on the web, so you know where to go. After some questioning, you get files from the Department of Education. There is an open data website, fortunately, so you can find different kinds of open data. You get some spreadsheets, and then finally some PDFs. And from that, you try to compose the answer to the questions I pose. As soon as you do that, you typically find that these data sources it's very hard to match them. It's just not possible. You have to see how the Education Department, the Public Transport Service, the Statistics Office, the Budget Office, Emergency Office, how they make connections between that data. And they typically do that differently. They describe the data differently, they use different formats, and trying to come up with meaningful, but very simple questions turns out to be very hard. So in this case, for each school, you have more than 6 queries, you have more than 6 results, and manually you then have to recombine those and to then finally know which would be the best school for your child. Typically in this fashion, the outcomes it's very labor intensive to get to those outcomes. There's very wide margins in the results. You actually don't know how valid those results are. It's very unreliable and not interoperable. So if you have a second child, you have to do all the calculations again. If you move, you have all the calculations again, and it's a lot of work. So we thought there must be better ways to make use of open data than this very labor-intensive and unreliable fashion. And that's why 23 partner institutes across Europe came together to do the project called City Service Development Kit. What they're doing is trying to standardize the way that local governments are handing out their data, so it will get more and more easy to combine those and get meaningful applications and then in the end answers to questions. This is very helpful. It's helpful for the citizens that have better answers. It's helpful for the developers because they can develop something in one city and then have that easily transported to another city. And it's very helpful to the local government as well, because they can choose suddenly from a very large amount of applications that would have been impossible to do before. So those 23 partners, they consist of, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cities across Europe. And together they chose 3 domains to try this new approach out. They chose participation, tourism, and mobility. And in each of those, they set up a way to standardize your data sources and to have some applications that then can easily travel from one city to another, to another, to another. So you get a huge share of possible solutions to problems. And our organization, Waag Society, chose the mobility domain. And well, who of you uses the public transport? Probably most of you, yes. Then you see that the public transport domain is a very complex domain because you have very different kind of data sets that you have to align to come up with something meaningful answers to questions. We have chosen this domain and then look to see how you can have real-time sources from very different data sources from very different owners, and put them together in one platform to be able to make a trip planner, a road planner, to answer questions like when I have to leave, go to a certain place and I want to be there 50 minutes before the theater starts, where should I park my car? So rather difficult questions. And the solution proved to be very versatile in a sense, because when you master the mobility domain, you master very many other complex domains at the same time. And we made this linked data suite that collects, annotates links, and distributes open data. It works very simple. We take a base layer of the OpenStreetMap, and we put all the objects, all the different layers of data that the local government might have, we put them on top. And then when you have those layers on top, you have to make the links between those layers explicit. And if you make the links explicit, then it starts to become very easy to ask questions about certain objects and certain things in space. So then suddenly it becomes possible to ask everything known about a certain school, or about a certain tram line, or about a certain tram, or about a certain person even. On top of that, we built an API. Who doesn't know what an API is? Very good. So an API, an application purpose programming interface that allows programmers to make applications on top of data. The total architecture looks like this. What's nice about our open source solution is that you can leave the data sources from the governments as they are. The SDK metaphor, it came from software development, where it's easy to, it allows you to keep the system that you have, abstract from it, put a layer on top, and then interface to that layer instead of going to the lowest layers all the time. So we make this interface layer, and then on top of that you can build applications. The system is open source. It is in use now in our 8 cities. It's getting turned into an association, and you'll see that happening more and more, I hope at least, because it turns out to be helpful. We've thoroughly described the API. It's very easy to add new data sets to it, and we've implemented a way that programmers can both see they see what the queries are, they see the results in ways that the computer code can easily extract or use. And you see also on the map, you see where the data points are, so it gets rather easy to understand what is going on. And with that, we've embraced civic hacking. I think in the presentation that I didn't give today, but at other occasions, I think that the best thing that you can do in a city to make it smart is to embrace civic hacking, and making it possible for people who have computer skills, who have coding skills, who have making skills in general, to put them to use for the civic good. So that's what we did, and I can show you some cases where we tried out this approach. Maybe some of you have seen this. This is a map of all the buildings in the Netherlands based on age. Some of you are nodding. It's actually the most simple case, the simplest case that we could make on top of the city service development kit. It was made in one afternoon, but it immediately conveyed the message of how powerful it is. And based on this, we've made many, many spin-offs already. We've made a simple open data globe that allows you to see real-time open data on top of a globe system. And it currently works for all the cities in the city service development kit. We've had several hackathons making city games and city navigators that will then easily transport from one city to another, like the Manchester application, who runs that bus, of course, and real-time scheduling applications. And all of those are actual demos that show the power of the system. And this is maybe one of the ones that I'm most proud of. It's that the City of Amsterdam has commissioned a third party to make an application API on top of our own API. So our whole idea is that our API is rather dumb and it just links the data sets. And so if you need special intelligence, for example in the field of parking, you have another API made that exposes a certain kind of intelligence again, and then on top of that are the real end applications. And by having a government making third-party APIs on top of our open source API, it ensures the longevity, let's say, of the application by far, I think. And people have started making applications. This is a simple the tree spotter. We've seen also that governments found out that, for example, the routes that they use to put the salt on the roads when it's freezing, you know those freezing roads, anybody knows those? By combining the data sets from different departments, they found out that actually some of the streets were double or triply salted and some others were not. And that immediately was a case for them to see, well, hey, there's something we can really have money here, save money here, and also make use of open data in a very simple way. Now we are making the city dashboard. Of course, London has its own dashboard, but we make our open source variety of it, where it's rather simple to click together different. It's a modular system in which you can choose which data is where and where it comes from. So you can easily build a city dashboard for all the cities that implement the city service development kit. And we've worked together with FabLab Barcelona to implement the Smart Citizen Kit. Does anybody know the Smart Citizen Kit already? Do you have one?
Oh yeah.
We have 100 in Amsterdam, and we handed them out to people who are committed to measure their environments for a certain amount of time. And all the data again is available, and like I said before, it's very easy to find every piece of data that is linked to a certain location. So now you can make applications that make use of that. More than 13 partners are working at it, or are implementing it right now. They're usually cities. And we have an association coming up, so if people are interested to join the association, either as a city or as an organization trying to build applications on top of it, you're more than welcome to speak to me or others. At the same time, we link to an organization called Europe Commons. Maybe somebody knows Europe Commons. That is a website especially targeted at governments that want to share applications through to other cities as well. And the amount of applications is growing quickly, so I urge you to go and look. Now, after the demo applications, third-party makers are catching up, so we see a lot of people actually using this stuff. And if you want some pointers to what I've just hinted at or said short, then you can look here. That's my story.